to our fourth. This is our fourth English at Work alumni panel. We started these in fall of 21. This came out of some research that we did with English alumni from our program to better understand the experiences that they were having as they transitioned from being students to working in whatever field they ended up in. And one of the things we found in that research was students really wanted examples, real examples, instead of just being told, oh, you can do anything with an English major. They wanted to see examples of what students were doing, what graduates were doing with their English skills, and to see how they had gotten to where they are. And so this is part of our effort to bring that information to our current students. So a couple announcements before we get started. The Research and Writing Center is in the middle of hiring for fall semester. There is an open house going on right now, so you can get a cookie at the end of this event and wander over to the library and get another cookie and learn about the great opportunities offered at the Research and Writing Center. These are paid writing consultant positions that also qualify for English Plus credits, so that's something to keep in mind. So I also wanted to make you aware of a couple of resources. We have this, if you look at the English homepage, the tab on the end is called English at Work. And this is where we are hosting all of this information for students to be able to access. So if you go there, you'll be able to see videos of these panels, past panels, and then this one will be up as well once we have the video all edited and put together nice. You can also read what other students have done on their internships. And I wanted to especially point out this English Alumni Stories page. We have a database of graduates who just share little bits about what they're doing in their varied careers, and that's a great way to get a sense of where our majors are going, what they're doing, and how they're using their English major skills. And some of them have even included contact information so you can begin the networking process if there's a career that you're particularly interested in exploring further. So, whoops, we will go in this order, and our presenters will each take a little bit to tell us some of their story, and then at the end we will have time for a Q&A. So be thinking of your questions, and we welcome those once our presenters are done presenting. And we'll just move one to the next. So Kylie.
Hi, I'm Kylie Brooks. I'm so excited to talk with you all today about my journey and how I got to my job, my real life job. So I am the social media manager at BYU. It's a real job. And it's awesome, and I tell my dad that constantly, like, it is a super real job, and I get super real dollars with it, and it's the best. So I really do love my job. I've been, I'll tell you more about my journey to it, but you are all BYU students, so I assume you're pretty comfortable knowing what my work might entail. The BYU main Instagram account, if you DM it, you are DMing me. So like now you have a face and name, don't say mean stuff, say nice stuff. It's fine, I will help you. I respond to all the DMs, I create all the content, I work with two student employees who help me create some of that content. We manage the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, we also have a YouTube. We produce content all the time about various things, and it's the best. I love my job. Here are some of the things we've been working on. We do takeovers. The My View from BYU Takeover series continues to be successful, so we continue to do it. We've been working really closely with the new Office of Belonging this semester, so we've been creating content for and with them. The incoming class of 2022, that big Y that hopefully some of you got to participate, unless you were COVID baby, sorry. We get to do that. That's one of our great pieces of content. Halloween is wild on campus, as you know. It's like the first day of school, Halloween, and graduation are like my top 3 peaks, which is bananas. Okay, so like I said, here's what I get to do. I create social media content, I respond to all the DMs. I work on strategic councils to understand students and how to best communicate with students. I give trainings across campus. That's actually my favorite part of my job, is going and teaching different areas about different aspects of social media, because every area on campus has their own social media account and their own social media manager. And I go and tell them how to do certain aspects of social media, or I work with them to come up with content ideas and things like that. It's super fun. And I also get to teach adjunct, which, confession session, and I don't know if any of my former professors were here. If so, you probably don't remember me. I was the worst student as an undergrad. My GPA was bad. It was so bad. And now I teach college, so that's hilarious for everyone. But I know what I'm talking about. I get to teach the social media for PR majors class in the School of Communications, and I love doing that. My background, obviously an English major. I did go back to school and I got my master's degree in social media management through BYU while I was working at BYU. I took a big gap in between as the aforementioned GP. I needed some work experience to balance that out. They were going to let me into any school ever again. So I had to get a lot of work experience, and then I went back and got my master's degree, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Okay, my work. I started my career as a teller at a bank, which was the most depressing thing in the world. As an English major, I was counting money, like 2 things I just couldn't have or do. Like I couldn't do either of those things. But in that role, I then got comfortable with the business, the organization I was working for. They had an opening in the marketing department. I said, that I can do better than counting money. Let me instead write the words for you. And I did that for a couple years. After that, I moved to become a social media content writer for a tech company. And then I moved to BYU. And I've been at BYU for a total of 8 years now. 5 of those years, 5.5 of those years was spent as the PR, marketing, and social media manager at the MOA, at the Museum of Art. So I was there for about 5.5 years during the pandemic. I made a switch, and I am now in the main PR office of the university. It's called University Communications. Your student email, your monthly student email comes from our office. Social media is there, media relations is there, so I'm there. I'm going to be real with you. The ASB vibes are a little different than the MOA, but we still love it. Okay, I'm going to tell you about my English experience. I would not change my English major if I did my undergrad again and again. I love my English major. I learned so much. However, I did not take advantage of the opportunities available to English majors, so I would encourage you to take advantage of some of those. That is the representation of me as an undergrad. And I'm going to tell you a quick story that's true. Is on my first day of my last semester, I graduated in a fall semester, so the first day of fall semester, and I had planned my schedule so I didn't have to wake up early for any of my classes. My first class of the day was at like 4 o'clock. It was the theory class. And I was like, sweet, this should be good. I forgot it was the first day of school. And I went to Seven Peaks because I had basketball passes. So I was like, this is awesome, summer forever. And then one of my roommates, who's also an English major, was like, where are you? And I was like, at Seven Peaks, where are you? And she was like, walking to our class we have, please hurry. So I got on my scooter, and I came really fast from Seven Peaks, still in my swimsuit and my cover-up, and made it to class on time and sat there. That was the vibe of my undergrad. It was not great. I would encourage you to take your classes seriously. I would encourage you to form meaningful relationships with your professors. I didn't do that, and I wish I would have. It would have made a world of difference for me finding internships and finding jobs after graduation. And just having a network of people who had my back. I didn't really have any professor or mentorship in my life during my undergrad, and that's my own doing. Many were willing and able to do that. I was an editor for Criterion, kind of by default. I knew the person who was creating it, and they made me do it. And then I worked at the Writing Center, and that was actually probably the biggest benefit to me. I learned a lot of critical thinking skills, learned how to, the Research and Writing Center, like, go do that. It was so meaningful to me. Ben, Nadia said, we worked there together for a span of time. And it was so meaningful. I made great friendships, but I also developed really great skills that still translate. I feel like I'm a much better writer myself because of my work there. Dance parties, blogging was a thing back in my life, and so that's where I got a lot of writing experience as well, and I barely passed all my classes. So what I wish I had done, like I said, I wish I had made relationships with professors. I wish I had tried harder. I wish I had done more internships that were writing internships. I didn't do any besides the Writing Center. I didn't branch out at all. I wish I had looked for jobs before graduating and using a network with professors or internships, perhaps. And I have no regrets about the Writing Center about the blogging. Okay, everyone needs an English major. Every company needs you. So go find the company that you want. They need your skills. They need your skill set. Take advantage of the opportunities you have here and go find that killer job. Social media did not exist when I graduated, and now I'm the queen of it on this campus. It's the best. So find the thing you want to be the king or the queen of. They need you. Go do it. The end.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Taelin. I am an analyst. My company does healthcare, and I'm in the healthcare tech consulting arm of things. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So I've organized this into tips that I thought was really helpful for me when I was going through school, so that's just how I'm going to talk through it. The first tip is make the most out of your formal education. I think that my editing minor really helped me a lot to be marketable, and it was a really great way for me to get jobs, and it just helped me a lot. So if you can look at minors that you think are going to be helpful for you, that is a great thing to do, so that you don't just have a BA, which is great, but you should try bolster it with other things. So editing is a great thing to do. I also did the honors program and was able to go to the University of Cambridge, where I did English literature a little bit, and then I also wrote my honors thesis there. So that was a fantastic experience, and probably the best experience that I had at BYU. So if you're interested in the honors program, please talk to me about it, or talk to the honors program. They were excellent at helping me with opportunities and just helping me make the most out of my time at BYU. And then, so these were some of the jobs that I had while at BYU. I think that it is fantastic to try and get jobs that are in line with your career. So when you go into the corporate world, they usually want you to have some kind of experience, unless you are going in at a base level salary. So these jobs really helped just with salary negotiation, and so that I could come in with some experience and get paid more than if I was just coming out of school with no work experience. So look around, see what opportunities there are, try to find some kind of job while you're here that will help you with your future career. And then internships, so these were the 2 internships that I did. They were fantastic, and working with the church and with the MA in London was probably, they were the second and third best things that happened while I was at school. So just keep your eye out for internship opportunities, and just, you should all have mentors. So try to talk to your mentors, see what opportunities there are, look at the flyers. I know there's a lot of flyers, there's email lists, so just look out for what there is. Any questions about these, go ahead and ask. They just were fantastic and gave me a lot of skills that helped me to get a higher salary when I came out of those internships and was then applying for jobs. So that was really helpful. And then find the path you want to be on, but don't be afraid to pivot. So when I first graduated, which was just 2020, I started in the writer-editor realm because I felt like that's what I wanted to do. The company that I was at started a new startup company, and they put me over that, so I got to do a bit of web design and a bit of team leading with content, and was the content director for them for a little while. But I felt like I needed a bit of a change, and I'm very passionate about healthcare, just because I worked in the science department for a while, so that was always interesting to me. I also had a bit of background in coding, it was a bit of a hobby. So I looked for analyst roles and was able to go to class research to do research, first of all, and then moved into an analyst position, and then the next role will be a consulting position. And another big tip that I have is just to make sure that you go to a company that wants to invest in you. So this company that I'm at will pay for an MBA, which is fantastic. So that's my next step, is they'll pay for me to have an MBA. I've looked into doing that, and then you move into a consulting role. So look for companies that are going to invest in you and help you along your journey. So, and that was one of my critiques for the church, which the church is great, loved working with them, but I felt like it's a great place for you to end your career and to kind of finish, and it's not a great place to grow. So just something to consider if you were thinking about working for the church. Next thing is just engage in the hustle. So I did freelance editing while I was at BYU and paid for my laptop, I paid for my car with it. It was great. So just get involved in other things that you can do beyond just school jobs or beyond just your major that can help you out, especially if you are money orientated, which I am very much money orientated. So look at doing passive income. I do rental properties and investing, so that's been fantastic. Let me know if you have any questions. It's a little bit of an offshoot. It's more just because I know I'm never going to make money doing a 9 to 5, so that's what I'm doing to have some other sort of income. All right, last tip is just to be your own advocate. So talk to people who are in the career path you want to be in. Use BYU resources, network, and be proactive. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Benjamin Miller. I graduated with a major in English in 2012, minor in history. I'm currently the Director of Content Development at Charles Schwab. Well, TD Ameritrade, which is now Charles Schwab. So, Charles Schwab is a financial services company that basically helps everyday people invest. They call it owning your tomorrow. And I oversee the creation of all of our educational content. So we make content to empower our existing clients and also to attract new ones. And so I manage a team of producers who we do lots of video, online courses, materials for streams and live events and all kinds of stuff like that. And the topics we cover, it's everything from super basic like personal finance stuff like budgeting, all the way up through advanced derivatives trading strategies like futures and options and stuff like that. And really, I'd say I'd sum it up to kind of categorize what I do as kind of a mix of like explanatory journalism, instructional design, and content marketing. And these are some examples of all the different types of content that we've created over the years. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I do. One of the main areas that we distribute our content is on YouTube. We make a lot of video content. And one of the videos I'm really proud of is this one about tax brackets, about marginal tax rates and how they work. You can see it's #1 ranked on YouTube if you search for tax brackets, which, we have a lot of #1 videos, and it's not a super sexy or high traffic topic, but the reason I'm proud of this one is because you can see the #2 video there is from Vox, who, they're really well known for doing great explainer videos, like they can invent the genre. They do really well on YouTube. They made a video about tax brackets 4 years ago. We saw that video and thought, you know what, we can do a better job than that. And so we put a lot of thought into the script and the explanations, and we, did a lot of work on the visuals to kind of support those concepts, put it on YouTube, and before long, we were #1. Vox is now #2. So small win. It's a really small thing, but I think it gives you a good sense of kind of like what my team and I do and kind of how we measure success. So yeah, just a little example of that. But you may be wondering, how did I end up getting paid to make YouTube videos? And so this is my path. I'm not going to bore you with every detail, but I'll call out a few highlights. So in addition to my kind of core coursework, I also took a lot of classes from the editing minor and in the computing and the humanities minor, which I think is probably digital humanities or something now. And so I gained like really useful skills like basic desktop publishing and basic web development, basic design, stuff that's like really valuable for knowledge work and for kind of the digital economy. I also took a digital literature class with Gideon Burton, that really set me up really well. We did blogging and social media and stuff like that, and that set me up really well for an internship I did at the Smithsonian through Washington Seminar, where I was the new media intern at the National Museum of American History. That did not lead to a job, but it was really cool and valuable professional experience, and importantly, I was able to build a portfolio of work. And I also did a lot of on-campus jobs, and through those jobs I learned about the field of instructional design, which is basically learning how to create content and experiences that help people learn. And that's the field I kind of ended up going into for my first job when I graduated. There's a company up in Salt Lake called alumni. They're an e-learning vendor, and they create corporate training. And that's where I worked for a few years. And then I moved over to TD Ameritrade to do what I do now. I've been there for about 8 years, and over that time I've kind of shifted away from instructional design, more into like content marketing, and kind of moved into more of a leadership role there. So that's a few highlights from kind of my path to where I am now. A few lessons that I think I've kind of pulled out from those experiences. One, I'll start with this tweet I saw the other day. It says, humanities graduates return to the Bronze Age would be welcome for their knowledge of languages and bardic skills, whereas STEM grads would be useless interlopers and rapidly enslaved. Sorry if you can't handle the facts of nature. This is a joke, obviously. We love our STEM friends. But the key point I want to get across is that you don't have to go back in time for your English major skills to be valuable. They're valuable now, here and now, which our other presenters have kind of talked about that. And related to that, there's a big piece in the New Yorker a couple weeks ago about English majors and this apparent decline in the number of students majoring in English. And one of the things they pointed to was, just because of the financial precarity in our society, a lot of people want a degree that will very clearly, directly take them to a very lucrative career. And the perception is that English won't do that. But the writer kind of pointed out some counter evidence to that as part of the story. He said career studies have shown that humanities majors with their communication and analytical skills often end up in leadership jobs. To that extent, the value of the educated human touch is likely to hold in a storm of technological and cultural change. There's been much hand-wringing about ChatGPT and its ability to replicate some composition tasks, but ChatGPT can no more conceive, Mrs. Dalloway, than it can guide and people manage an organization. And then he has this quote from an engineering professor at MIT who says, "I think the future belongs to the humanities." And that's coming from, an MIT STEM person. That's been my experience. Those core writing, research, communication, analytical skills, critical thinking that I got from an English major have been incredibly valuable. And it's really the foundation of everything that I've done professionally, creating compelling, clear content for people. I learned to do that as an English major. I also think, studying literature, you learn a lot about human nature and learn to kind of empathize with people, and that's really valuable. Being a leader, for managing relationships with clients, navigating large organizations of people, stuff like that. And then I also think, immersing yourself in some of the great works of art in the English language over the past several centuries. I think a little bit of creativity probably rubs off on you as well. So super valuable. I would say, I do think it's also super important to have some more technical skills to supplement those things. Whether that's coding, or design, or media production, or data analysis, whatever it is. Those skills are how you get a job. Then your English major skills are how you build a career. And that's kind of the formula that I've seen from my experience. So, thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm Rebecca. Thank you to everyone who's here today. English majors looking for jobs one day, presumably, which is exciting. You're in the right place. I believe in you. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. I currently work as a product manager and also a co-founder of this website called The Lowdown. So let me tell you a little bit about my background before I dive into what it is I do. So I graduated from BYU the first time in 2018 with a degree in English, and I minored in creative writing and editing. Do we have any creative writers in this room? All right. Okay, love to see it. Any editing minors in this room? Also, some of the same hands went up, which is awesome. Okay, great. And then I came back to BYU right away, and I got my master's in creative writing with an emphasis in fiction. And so keep in mind, as I kind of go through what I do for work, I'm also a novelist. I love writing novels. I've written 2 novels since I graduated from BYU a couple years ago. And both of these things can be true. We can write jobs and we can work jobs and write novels, or write jobs and work novels. It's up to you. But I was at BYU for a while, like 8 years in a row, which was a good thing for me. But I worked a lot of jobs. I was managing editor for Mormon Insights. I worked for Mormon Insights. I was editor-in-chief at Inkscape. I also did some writing tutoring, and I was here for, my time, and I worked a lot of jobs, which was a really good thing for me. I think it's easy to feel like you start your career after you graduate from college, which is technically true, but there are lots of really beneficial work opportunities at BYU that if you feel like a little bit stuck, like maybe you've been doing the same job in the Cougar Eat, or working janitorial for 3 years, consider applying for other jobs, because there are really great work experiences you can get as a student on campus, working for Kylie or Michael. My husband Michael works at BYU in the law school. There's cool jobs you can do here. So I worked all these jobs, and then I graduated, and I got started for a company. They're a real estate investment company who wanted to start an online culture magazine that helped students find places to live. And I was reached out to on LinkedIn by a recruiter because of my experience being an editor-in-chief. And I said, sure, I can do that for you. Let's do it. I was the only person on my team, and they wanted me to bring on editorial staff. Very exciting. But as I started researching the problem that we were trying to solve, I'm sorry I keep puffing into the microphone. I'm going to try to stop doing that, but no promises. As I realized kind of what the problem actually was, it became very clear that there's a better way to solve it. And that way to solve it was to create a user-generated platform that allowed students to give each other advice about housing and where they should live. And so the Lowdown was born, and it's kind of like Rate My Professor, but for housing. We target BYU and UVU students, but we're expanding to the entire state of Utah with Diamond Dreams to go national. And the best part about that was somehow I was still in charge of it. And so I hired out a very different team than I had intended to. I was able to sponsor a BYU IT capstone project, which is that picture in the corner over there. And so for a year, I had IT students building out the website, and then when they graduated, I was able to hire a bunch of them. So this is what I do now. First and foremost, I manage a team. We've got 6 full-time employees, we've got a contractor, we've got 4 interns, and I kind of keep that show on the road. But beyond that, and also very exciting, is I get to do a ton of problem solving on the day-to-day. So we have our target demographic, we have a problem you guys have all felt. It's scary signing a contract, hard to find places to live, it's a competitive market. And it's my job to talk to students and to find ways to create a product that solves their problem. This is also a free product, FYI, thelowdownutah.com. You should look at it if you're looking for housing for the fall. But so my day-to-day is I'm managing this team, I'm interviewing students, I'm doing user testing, I'm doing a lot of project management. Are any of you guys familiar with the distinction between product management and project management? Is this something familiar to you? It was not for me. I had never heard of product management when I graduated from BYU. The difference between project and product is product managers are much more involved in the creating the roadmap and determining the why we're doing something and how we're doing something, whereas project managers are just kind of like the win and working it out and keeping people on track. So my job title is product manager and also co-founder, because this was my idea that we pivoted from an online magazine to this. But I do a lot of project management on the day-to-day, planning out sprints for our web team, getting people organized, making sure people are on track and are happy and healthy on the team. And then of course, I also write content. I do a lot of content writing, but I'm grateful I don't do very much on the day-to-day because, again, I'm a novelist. And so I go home and I write. Well, I actually work from home, so spoiler, I'm always home. But I, in my heart, go home, and then I'm able to write novels because I'm not too burnt out from writing all day long, which I know some content writers who do both, and I really respect the heck out of them. So, specifically thinking about my time studying creative writing, I wanted to pull out a few things that were really beneficial to me to highlight how you guys can be intentional about your school experiences and translating those into useful jobs. Because we all know, accounting majors grow up to be accountants, engineering majors grow up to be engineers, English majors get to grow up to be whatever they want to be, which is awesome, but it requires a little bit more intentionality. And if you don't know what you want to do right now, that's great, and that's okay. But now's the time to be exploring and to be looking for meaningful work and internship experiences to help you. So really briefly, 3 ways that I feel like my education prepared me for my career is definitely as a creative writer, I have a lot of practice envisioning other people's perspectives and embodying kind of another POV. And that seems kind of weird and artsy, but it really does help because I spend a lot of time thinking about my users, thinking about you guys, imagining what your experience is, sitting down on the homepage and clicking around and filling out a review form and looking for housing. I spend a lot of time thinking about users, and I do feel like I have some repetition built in that it's a little bit easier for me than it would have been if I didn't spend a lot of time in my life writing. So envisioning users in perspective is really beneficial. The second one, and maybe the most important one, is I have some good chops when it comes to people telling me bad things about my writing. And that, if you are thinking about taking creative writing classes, or if you're having a hard time justifying a creative writing minor, this in and of itself, I would do it. Take your creative writing classes because one, art is important. Two, stories matter. These are true. But in a professional setting, if you can be really good at taking feedback and rolling with it and evaluating it and separating your emotions and moving forward and also determining what's most helpful, that's like a really, really useful skill. And as a people manager now, where I've got 6 people on my team full time, if they can't take feedback well, let me tell you, everybody on my team right now can take feedback really well, but when I'm looking to hire people, that is something I really look for. Because if I have to stress, because I'm a nice person, did you know this? I'm a nice person. And if part of my job is stressing about whether or not I hurt somebody on my team's feelings, like I don't have time for that. And that's stress I don't want to carry. And so if you can take feedback and roll with it and move forward, that is like worth its weight in gold to me. And that's something that my creative writing training helped me get better at. Also, my time at BYU, I met a lot of really awesome people. And I'll tell you right now, everybody I worked with, I met at BYU. And so that's not always going to be your case, but I was able to meet with a lot of professors who have helped me. I was able to make a lot of friends who have helped me build this project. And so all these things are true. I'm just going to close really fast with please, 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 don't be a stranger. I graduated from BYU just less than 2 years ago. And I'm really passionate about mentoring students. And I was passionate when I ran Inscape about mentoring students and about helping students have professional opportunities. So if you are looking for professional opportunities, talk to me. I've got internships open if you're looking for class credit, or if you just want to build your portfolio. I'm happy to help you do that and have professional experiences you're looking for before you graduate. Please scope out the Lowdown Utah on Instagram, and please, please, please leave a review of your current apartment. It goes on our website to help other students decide where they want to live. So this is kind of my thing. I want to leave lots of time for questions, so I'm going to stop. But thank you so much, guys.
All right, now this is the super valuable time for all of you who took the time and effort to come here today. You get to ask your questions of our panelists. So feel free to raise your hand. I've got some I can ask, and but let's start with what you guys have.
I've got one.
Go for it.
Let's preface this by saying I know a couple of our panelists, at least a little bit. So Taelin and I met when she came to meet with me about an internship that she didn't end up doing. And I can't even remember why, if it was pandemic disruption or other opportunity or whatever it was. But the point is, I know she was out there actively looking for opportunities. She was proactive in the way she's described. When Rebecca was here, she was almost entrepreneurial. And she was organizing events and beating bushes to find funding and entering the 3-minute thesis contest and being an RA and a TA and doing 50 other things. I mean, she was, again, super proactive. And so, and I hear this advice from all of you. You know, take advantage of the opportunities while they're here. It seems to me we've got a couple of kinds of people in the English major. One kind really is sort of public speaker, creative type, word person, people person, for whom that kind of entrepreneurial spirit comes naturally. We also have some students that are more introverted, you know, that are in the major because they'd rather curl up with a book than talk with humans, right? And I'm wondering what advice you have for that second class of student that's talented and able, but has a harder time sticking out the neck in some of the ways we've been describing.
I've got thoughts on this, if that's good. Yeah, I'm glad you bring this up, Paul. I think my biggest piece of advice is build your portfolio. Build your portfolio. Because I am very people-centered, and I would rather manage a team than write the content all day long. but I know people, thankfully, on my team who feel differently than that. And so I would say if that's what you want to do and you want your head down and you want to be able to do your work and get paid and not feel like you have to give presenters or lobby with stakeholders and things like that, build your writing portfolio. Boost it up and get those experiences in internships. There are roles for everybody and they're needed, and that's where those are like my weaknesses. You know, like I have a hard time with my head down for 8 hours a day. I simply cannot be a full-time writer. That would be really hard for me. But it's not for other people. And so I think like own your talents for who you are and find ways to optimize them and to find a career doing what you love. And it doesn't have to be what I love, because I don't want to do what you love, and that's great.
Any other thoughts?
So I think that's also why I moved into an analyst role, is because I really like writing reports and I really like just having my data set, doing my reports, doing my thing, and then giving it to the consultant. So that's definitely going to be, I do want to move into that role, but it is going to be harder. So if I'm more of a background person, if you're a background person, there's lots of jobs for you, but you do kind of, if you want the big bucks, you kind of have to put yourself out there and to be a little bit more forward in things. So you can be a background person, but just realize that maybe you should work on that skill a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing I would add, I think, is, you know, I don't know if I'm super introverted, but I'm definitely like a pretty shy person, a little anxious, and so like being outgoing and like networking, ugh, I don't like that word, but it also sounds like you hear the word networking and it sounds scarier than it is. Like it's actually like super important to like get to know people and to like build relationships with people, But I also think, like, I understand that can be challenging and difficult. But I also think that, like, while you're here, like, this is a very, like, safe educational environment that is, like, literally built to foster those types of things. And so, like, everybody here, like, all the professors and staff, everybody, like, wants you to succeed. And so, like, if you're nervous about, like, talking to people or, like, kind of getting out of your comfort zone, you just gotta remember that, like, everybody here is, like, on your team. They want you to succeed, and like, you know, if you mess up, if you make mistakes, if you do something silly, like, it's okay. Like this is an educational environment, and this is the time when you can really take some of those risks, and you have, I think, a kind of safety net.
I have nothing to add.
Well, I have a question for you, maybe kind of related. So you may be, as a student, it's possible you've seen these presentations and you're now feeling overwhelmed, like I only have 3 semesters left, I can't go get 8 jobs while I'm here, or something like that. And so you had a different experience as a student that you owned and shared. So maybe just talk about like not giving up, or
Yeah. I think you know why you're an English major. What brought you here? Mine was, I tried about 5 or 6 different majors when I got here until I landed on English, because I realized that literacy was my only skill. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I don't have to like audition for literacy. So I have that skill. And I was like, sweet, I love writing. And I really like to read as well. Those I'm gonna hold on to. And even though I kind of squandered some of the opportunities during my undergrad, I was able still, even just through my classes and through the Writing Center, to just like grow those little skills just a little bit. So what are your English major touch points? Those are your anchor points, and those can blossom into any career you want. I will say that money is a big motivator. When you graduate and you have no money and you have no internships and you have no mentors and you have no resources, that's scary. So that becomes like, okay, I'll do whatever I need to survive. But I would encourage you, it's like, why are you an English major? You don't have to know the career you're going to go into yet, but what brought you to the English major, foster that and see where that leads you. And that way it's a little less intimidating, instead of saying, okay, I'm trying to get to this career, say, okay, let's actually start where I am and see what careers that offers me. It's probably a lot more than you think.
thank you. What other questions do we have? Yes, back here.
I guess like I kind of feel with your concern, like networking just kind of sounds like scary, and like I just don't want to be like so proactive about like things, and like I just would feel so much more comfortable if I felt like things were coming to me or something. I mean, is that like less of a possibility just because English major isn't like, oh, I'm training to be an engineer, that's the job or something, like, it's pretty vague, you know?
Can I answer? I'll be quick. This is so woo-woo, okay, what I'm gonna say to you right now. So like, just because I'm in a blazer doesn't mean I can't be woo-woo. So, when you put stuff out into the universe, I told you, it's gonna come back to you in some way. So even, you don't have to network, you don't have to like go to the party or like go to the thing. What you do need to do is like, can you code? Build a great website right now. Show your skills. Show, don't tell. If you don't want to tell, show. You know how to do that. You are English major. Show, don't tell. Show your skill set. Show it off. And if it's not going to the fancy parties or going to whatever, that's okay. But you got to demonstrate your value in a different way. You can't just expect things to come to you without putting in something. Even if it's not going and talking to people, what is it? Is it building a website? Is it being a part of a magazine? Whatever it is. That's it. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I would say too, I think networking is like a very scary word and scary concept, but I think if we don't call it networking, I would tell you to be a good friend and talk to your classmates. Because right now, I promise you that your professional network in 5 to 10 years are people, a lot of which you met at BYU. And so it doesn't feel that way when you're a student. But I don't think you have to like put on your tie and go to the fancy dinner and like have the scary conversation with somebody. I think start making friends now and make friends with your coworkers and talk to the people in your class, which I know is also scary. But that is your professional network. And so I think investing in the people you're meeting now and realize what a blessing and what a great opportunity it is to be at BYU and to be associated with such smart, driven people. You know, take advantage of that, and that is networking. But don't call it networking, because I think it's a little bit misleading.
Yeah, one thing I'd add to that too is like, you know, a lot of the jobs I've had and opportunities and stuff, they have kind of come to me in a sense, in that like I never was like, oh, I want to go work for Charles Schwab. That is my goal. Like it just kind of happened. But I do feel like opportunities arise when you do kind of put yourself out there, and again, if the word networking is kind of cringy or whatever, like, you know, join clubs, like get jobs on campus, like make friends, like just like do stuff, put yourself in environments where opportunities can arise. And in my experience, like that's where a lot of those opportunities came from. It was from like, oh, I had a friend, or like, oh, a former coworker who like knew this person, who knew that person. Stuff like that, just kind of like like we've said several times, I think, like there are lots of resources here. This is like a very resource-rich environment. So many different ways to get involved, so many different people to talk to, and by just like, you know, kind of casting a wide net now, I think opportunities tend to just kind of arise when you do that.
And most majors have to network, even if they're in a more straight track. They've got to learn how to network or how to form relationships. Is part of it. There were some hands over here.
Can you guys think of a time, either when you were here at BYU or as you were searching for a career, when maybe you failed at something or you were disappointed or like didn't get something you wanted, and how did you move on from that, or how did you use that to like find a different path or like better yourself as like an employee or whatever? I don't know.
I feel so. Do you want me to go? I'll go quickly. I think that question is really insightful, and the fact that it's been spoken to our air is important. You recognize there's something to learn from things not going the way you expect it to. And we talk in the gospel all the time is like trials can teach you something. That's true. And in a career setting, or if you don't get into an internship or a class or a major or whatever it is, or a job, it is discouraging, but I always ask for feedback from the person who failed me or who rejected me or whatever reason. Not like, why did you do that? But it's more like, what do I need to work on so that if I were to apply for this again, what would you be looking for? What am I missing? Where's that gap? And then I have a distinct area of focus if that's something I really want to go for. So that's something that has helped me.
thoughts or?
One example that comes to mind for me is I think of like the internship I did when I was at the Smithsonian. This kind of relates to some of the stuff we were talking about before about networking and forming relationships, but I feel like one area I really failed there is that like I did not like talk to people. Like one of the main benefits of an internship is you get to go like kind of be embedded within a company and get to know other people in the field and professionals. And I like wouldn't go have lunch with people. And I did this actually in my first job. Like people would invite me to go to lunch and I would just like say no. Because I don't know why. I love lunch. I think I need people. It's what it is. No, I think I was really shy and like felt really stressed about trying to get work done and thought that like, oh, the very best thing I can do is just work really hard. And like I regret that so much. Like so many missed opportunities, so many lost relationships. And so like even just simple things like going to lunch with your coworkers or your internship mates when you get invited. And you know, as far as like how I mean, that's just a lesson. You know, some failures, like you can't really do anything about it, and you just know, like, okay, next time I need to do a better job at that thing, and it can be really, really valuable going forward.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there's a question.
Coding has been mentioned a lot, and it gets more important with every recent year. What would you say is the most efficient way to learn how to code as an English major, and what might be the best language to learn with?
I can answer that. So do Udemy. Udemy was really helpful, and then obviously when I was working here, I had to code. That was part of it, so that was HTML. HTML is great. The church uses XMLT. They also use Java. Right now, I'm doing R for my job currently, so just search what business language, like different companies use different languages, so just search which ones are interesting. C++, no CSS, C++. I haven't done that one, but I know that that is one that a lot of companies want, so just search what companies want, go on Udemy, get yourself educated. It's great.
Maybe explain what Udemy is.
Oh, sorry. So it's a website where you just can go and buy courses, and then you can go through the courses, and then I literally just went to my employees and said, okay, I've done this course, here's my results from it, and I know that I can do a good job in this position with this coding, and then they will give you tests. So to just prove yourself. So you can do it. It's a language, right? And English is a language. So if you like languages, you'll be great.
That's great. I assume it's still happening. I haven't looked for a couple of years, but our library here on campus offers mini courses in like all the Adobe suite, other aspects like that. So you can, as a student, you can go, even if it's not a course assignment or something, you can go and you can learn how to use Photoshop or InDesign, Illustrator, those kinds of, yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say they're having a training tomorrow evening, an event, so.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so again, it's part of the resources we have here on campus too. So if you just start kind of hunting around, asking around, you'll find the thing that can work with your situation.
And we do have our Office of Digital Humanities here in the college, which I
Who
think
use a lot of those
somehow
things. Yeah.
English majors tend to be oblivious to, but there are opportunities, curricular as well as extracurricular.
Yes.
And the digital humanities team, or the college has a communications arm. We hire writers, editors, web designers, graphic designers. So we're looking for people right now, hiring 10 student employees for the summer. So come talk to me if you're looking for a job.
And student jobs are a great way to gain some of these skills, because often you can get hired even if you don't already know how to use InDesign or something. You can get training on the job, so take advantage of those. We are about out of time. I did want to ask one more question. Is there a way, to our panelists, is there a way that you see, or how do you see in your career your English skills maybe setting you apart or allowing you to advance? Benjamin mentioned humanities majors move into leadership, for instance. So how do you see that working in your profession or in your fields?
I feel so chatty, sorry.
That's why we invited you.
I'll take this one. Please, I want to hear from everyone, so everyone should answer this one. But I find that English majors, we're more than, like copywriters. Like, yeah, we're the best at like putting together a sentence that communicates an idea. But we do it with heart. We do it with soul. And that sounds so stupid when I tell you that I use that on Twitter. But I do. I'm able to communicate communicate effectively, and I can tap into that pathos part of people where not only do they get what I'm saying, but they get it in their hearts a little bit. And I don't think that that is something that everyone has, but we are trained in it in every class in the English major. So that's like one of those soft skills that I've found has set me apart from people who string together a bunch of words in a sentence.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I can shake, no one else is going to shake. So I don't know if I explained it very well, but a lot of my job is report writing, right? And they need good report writers. They need people who are going to write well. So that was something that they hired me for, is so that I could write well. So it really helped me get that job. So yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said a few things in my presentation about this, but really, I do think the empathy part of it is really important, just like really kind of having a sense of like how people think, how people feel, how they might respond to things. And even, you know, as like a writer or like a designer, like being able to understand who your users are, I think you talked about that a lot. You know, that is so important, and whether it's your coworkers, whether it's your clients, your audience, whoever, like just being able to like think from other people's perspectives, I think is super valuable.
I'll say something too. I think it's easy for me to feel in my career that I often don't feel like I'm an expert in anything, and I probably am an expert in writing, but the kind of writing I'm most expert in is not in the professional world. And so there are people who can write reports better than I can. There are people who can definitely code better than I can. I don't do that at all. There's people who can graphic design better than me, but there is like value, even if it's a scary space to occupy. There is very needed space in people for people who can navigate ambiguity and have a little bit of expertise in a lot of things. And there's a lot of roles like that, and that's where product management, I feel like, is a sweet spot I have kind of backed into, is because it needs somebody who has these kind of people skills and writing skills, but can talk to web developers and help make plans and solve problems, even if you're not like a hard expert in anything. And that's a scary, definitely a scary space to take up, but it's really needed, and people who can do that well really have a lot of career opportunities open to them.
Let's thank our presenters one more time.